everybody. Welcome to Rachel's Reviews. And today is going to be really fun. We have a special episode of the podcast where we are talking about one of my favorite topics, talking about musicals. It's going to be so fun. And in particular, we're talking about what musicals should you recommend to people who don't like musicals? What are the gateway drugs that could get them in and get them excited about musicals? And I'm really excited because I have with me two of the critics from the OnStage blog. We've had Chris Peterson here on the podcast for Theater Tuesdays. And today we're having Greg Earhart is here and Ken Jones. So thank you so much to both of you for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us.
Yeah. So if you want, this is your first time, both of you being on the show, why don't you introduce yourself? And so why don't you start, Greg, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you started writing for OnStage.
Yeah, sure. So I started writing for OnStage blog and the movie part of OnStage blog, which is OnScreen blog, probably a few years ago. So I write kind of general commentaries about about the movies that are coming out and looking back at movies, also looking forward a bit. And I'm writing about all sorts of issues that come through, both serious and also just kind of having fun. I've written some fun, just an example, contrarian pieces about why Casino is a better movie or more interesting movie than Goodfellas. So I find some angles like that. That's another episode. But that's what I tend to write about, as well as writing on some theater topics for OnStage blog.
And what about you, Ken? How did you get started?
Yeah, so I had my own kind of personal movie blog for a couple of years back in like the 2010s, mid 2010s, and Chris started up his OnStage blog, and a couple of years into that, asked me to come on board with him. So started doing that around 2018, I think, and mostly movie reviews. I do a little bit of articles and stuff. I guess one thing that I wrote that got a lot of traction for the site was like a movie theater etiquette piece about like the do's and don'ts of
9 rules for the movie theater.
Yeah, yep. 9 rules for the movie.
Gotta behave.
Oh, yeah. Do you remember it? Do you remember the basic ones off the top of your head?
Oh, I mean, turn off your cell phone, dim your phone. It's not your living room, basically. So don't talk back to the screen because people didn't come to the movie theater to hear you. Yeah. They came to see the movie.
Honestly, I think that talking in any way is way more annoying than someone just looking at their phone. Like I'm not endorsing either behavior, but I'm just so used to the latter that really it is so disruptive. And I particularly noticed that old people tend to be super loud, and I went and saw.
Well, sometimes they can't hear themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
I went and saw, I think it was, what was it called? There was a movie with Susan Sarandon, Rose Byrne, I can't think of the name. And the entire time, this old lady was commenting to the screen, like, "Oh, don't get in the car with that guy," and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And Ken's piece was interesting, is it took off really during the pandemic. Because movie theaters were closed for a bit. And I think like when people started coming back, like people in society, I think just in general forgot how to behave. And I think the movie theaters was what, like, it was airplanes and movie theaters, I think were the two big things.
Sporting events for a little while. Yeah.
Right. And I think people had to kind of remind themselves they got used to behavior on their couch. They could do whatever they wanted. So I think that was one of the reasons why the piece took off. People were just Googling it and sharing it.
It just amazes me what people will let their kids do. That amazes me. Like, I know it's hard taking care of kids. I don't have kids myself, but I've spent a lot of time with kids, and it's hard. But I remember one time I was watching Secret Life of Pets, the first one. And I was sitting there and I was actually watching for a podcast. So I'm like taking notes. I'm trying to be attentive. And this little girl, she was just like walking up and down the stairs, up and down, up and down. And whoever her caretaker was just like, she could care less. And then finally, the little girl just like sits next to me and is like chatting. like, I'm trying to focus here. Like, what are you
Right,
doing?
right. Yeah. I have to imagine kids' movies are a hard
yeah.
place to do a review for
Yeah.
a lot of a lot of movies.
I had a similar story. I went to see Toy Story 3, and I kid you not, this was at like 10 o'clock on a Tuesday night. And this couple came in with their toddler that was like 2 years old. And the whole time the kid is just running back and forth up and down the aisles at 10 o'clock on a Tuesday night. Like,
Yeah.
why is this kid up? Why are you not in bed? Like, it didn't make any sense.
Okay,
Yeah.
babysitters,
That,
$50
I
an
guess,
hour.
yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
you've done your duty writing that, so that's very good. That's very, very good. But
Yeah.
I mean, would you say that you were theater fans, or did you just sort of happen to movie fans that happen to end up on this this stage theater blog?
Yeah, I've been a theater fan since I was a kid.
Okay.
You know, my parents were avid musical fans, particularly, and so there are a few key ones I really grew up on. But I actually started with Onstage Blog helping Chris Peterson on the business end of it. That's
Okay.
where I started, and then there's a need to just write for writers, to write more about theater and especially movies. And so that's right. I think Ken came on, I think, a little bit before I started really writing about for OnScreen blog. So it started there for me particularly, but always had a passion for both theater and movies.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I have a passion for theater, but I've been to a couple community shows in the local area. I live in Maine. It's not exactly a bustling, hub of theater, but I got a couple of friends that are in theater, and I know Chris from college, and he was a theater major, and so I've seen my fair share of shows. Never been on Broadway or to Broadway or anything like that.
Oh, really? Well, Greg, then let me ask you. I felt like there's a really big difference between writing film criticism and theater criticism. Have you felt that?
Yes. Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
There's just so many angles on a theater production that there's two angles. One is there's a lot of angles in movies too when you're really watching closely, but you could give a good movie review with just really hitting like the 4 or 5 key areas of the movie. The acting, the directing, cinematography. With any given theater show, not only is there so many cast members, but there's just so many different angles of the set and the choreography. And the second big area is, I hate to say, there's a lot of thin-skinned production people and actors where if you give anything but the rosiest of reviews to them, they let you have it.
Yep, I experienced that this week. I experienced that this week. Where I thought it was actually like a fluff piece. I didn't think I hardly said anything. I said it was the best show they've ever done. And they said they were devastated by my review. And I was like, what?
Right. I won't name the show, but if you could Google me, you could find it. I gave it wasn't even a negative review of the choreography of a show. It was just sort of like, it was, everything in the show was great, but the choreography was average. And I got a message from the person who ran the choreography, like a long message, basically asking for a retraction. Of the comment for my opinion, right? And I'm like,
gosh, and I think you're right too about the fragility of the performers, but also the and they're probably honestly the actors, the performers, the people involved in movies are probably just as fragile, but we have that distance.
There's probably a lot more removed, I would say.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
But you try to be respectful, you try to be nice, and it's something especially because I do so many interviews as part of Hallmarky's podcast. So I always try, like, these are people I'm interacting with that I'm doing these podcasts and stuff. So I try to keep respectful, but I've noticed that particularly about theater, that they are especially sensitive. Are you a fan of Rachel's reviews? Do you look forward to Family Movie Night, Female Film Critics panels, or the Talking Disney podcast? If so, please consider supporting the podcast by becoming a Patreon. As a patron, you get to access monthly events such as the watch-alongs and Q&As, where you get to talk to stars and find out the behind the scenes of the movie making industry. And you can pick what I review for Family Movie Night or even become a guest on the podcast. podcasts and YouTube channels are expensive, and I really, really could use your help. I would so appreciate it. You also get to be a member of the Facebook group where we talk about all the films that we're seeing, and we have so much fun. Go to patreon.com/hallmarkies and select one of the Rachel's fan tiers. That's patreon.com/hallmarkies. But also, what you're saying about talking about the technicals in a way that you just don't with movies. I mean, every once in a while there'll be a director, if it's a Spielberg or a Deakins or somebody like that, Greta Gerwig, I'm gonna talk about them. But if it's just an average movie, I'm not probably going to even mention the director. I'm not going to probably mention the cinematographer unless it's a Roger Deakins, unless it's a somebody important, or if it's really astounding. I don't know, just that those kind of technicals. But when you're writing a theater review, they really want you to get, they want you to just mention the sound engineer and mention the lighting designer and by name and stuff like that. So that was an adjustment. And then also, one thing I noticed is that you have to now, as a film critic, you have to be so careful about talking about the plot, like, at all. I mean, you get accused of spoiling for the most mild, insignificant details that are right in the trailer. Yeah. And people say, "Oh, you spoiled it."
Yeah.
And so when I was covering theater, when I first started, I was hesitant, to talk about the plot. And then my editor was like, "No, you need to, like, how did he sing? How did they sing this song? How did they do this number? What was this scene like? I want specifics." And so that was a big adjustment too.
Yeah, I've noticed you almost need two reviews. So one is like the weekend of, and then you write another review like 4 or 5 weeks after. So it's sort of like, here's a review if you've seen it, here's a review if you just want to know if it's good or not. And I think the one the review right for everyone who's seen it really gets the technical details and all that. And maybe the review before it is just, here is why it's good, or here's why it stinks, or why you should avoid it.
Well, and you can still technically, there's still some spoilers in theater, but I don't know. I just found that they were a lot more, because a lot of these, shows have been around for forever, and so they want to know, how's the bring him home, how's the end of the act, and how's the different iconic scenes, people want to know. So that was very interesting to me, and it's been a challenge, but it's been really, really gratifying. I've loved it, and I love reviewing both film and theater. It's the best. So it's so fun to have you both on. So what we thought would be fun is we're talking today about musicals for non-musical fans, and it's kind of fun because we independently made our lists, and we all have different lists where it was a top 5. And so I don't know if either of you have any honorable mentions that you wanted to give a quick shout out to that almost made your list but didn't make your list. What about you, Greg?
Yeah, I had 2 honorable mentions. So one is Greatest Showman, who I wanted to recommend for the younger audience who may be like, musicals are dumb. Like, I'm not watching a musical. Like, that might be a show that I would give to that audience specifically. It's not overall a movie musical I'd recommend in general, because it's a microwave musical, basically. Like, it's like, things happen because they have to happen. Everything's really compressed, but the set pieces are really good. The songs are catchy as heck. So it's songs, super fun. It really hooked my 9-year-old daughter on musicals. It was one of the first movies to really do for live action musicals. So she loves that soundtrack. So that was one. And then the other one, just because it's so goofy, Labyrinth was the other one. Again, it's not for every non-movie musical fan, because you have to have an appetite for David Bowie. And for Muppets and that kind of Muppets type of humor. But if you like both of those things, that's definitely like, here's a movie that's good on its own, even without any music whatsoever. Yeah. But here's some really fun music, to go along with it. And that was sort of my general criteria for how I evaluated musicals for non-musicals. Like, I want the movie to be pretty good on its own, even putting aside the music for a second.
Yeah, those are good ones. So a couple that they're my honorable mentions. I have Little Shop of Horrors as an honorable mention. I think it's got enough humor, it's silly enough, it's weird enough that I think people that aren't super into musicals could enjoy it, enjoy the songs. And then Pitch Perfect, I love.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a huge fan. I
That's
think
yep.
it is
Mhm.
so funny. And I think it genuinely, if people are laughing, they don't mind some songs.
Yeah, that's a very good one. Again,
Yeah.
same kind of audience. I get yeah,
Hmm.
exactly. Just
What about you, Ken? Do you have any
yes.
honorable mentions?
Yeah, basically like a lot of Disney, a little bit of Pixar,
Hmm.
Muppets, John Carney's movies, La La Land.
Hmm.
Um,
Mm,
yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty much it. Um,
okay.
yeah,
Uh,
I'm regretting that I completely blanked on Labyrinth. It did not even cross my mind, and
Right.
so I'm regretting. My list almost feels invalid now
Is
because
it number one? Right.
well, it got a shout out. It got a shout out.
yeah. So it's good
Yeah.
that Greg. I'm glad you brought that one up because that's a
Thank
good
you.
one.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Greg, why don't you start your number five?
Okay. So my number five is a little movie called Guys and Dolls. And I'd recommend it for really one reason, because as you'll see with the rest of my list, I'm not usually picking traditional movie musicals, and Guys and Dolls is a traditional movie musical. You know, it's not quite like what you'd see on stage, but it flows the same way. It's broken up very similarly, has a very old fashioned feel. But a non-musical fan should watch this just to watch Marlon Brando act and sing. Just like again, Marlon Brando is one of the most important actors ever in Hollywood, you know, and one of the
Mm-hmm.
great actors as well. Watching him attempt to sing as Sky Masterson is just unbelievable. You just have to see it and experience what he tries to do. And in fairness, he's kind of passable. Now, musical fans hate
Yeah.
having him be Sky Masterson, especially given all the iconic.
Do you know
But
that?
also, what? Yeah, go ahead.
No, so there was a brief period where Stephen Sondheim wrote movie reviews, and one of them is of Guys and Dolls, and it is really epic. You should look it up.
Oh, I
It's really
bet.
good. He
I
was
got to
like,
do
"What is
that.
happening here?"
But you also get a good Frank Sinatra singing and acting
Yeah.
performance in it. But knowing, I don't know if everyone knows this, but like Marlon Brando and Frank Sinatra epically feuded on the set because Sinatra didn't think Brando deserved to be on the musical singing because Sinatra claims he was promised Sky Masterson until Brando was suddenly available. But Brando hated Sinatra too because he didn't consider Sinatra a very good actor. So like they hate each other's guts, you know, during this production. But they have to act in a lot of scenes together, and they're actually pretty good in it. And so just watching the two of them throughout this musical makes it
Mm-hmm.
worth it enough. You're
Yeah.
watching a little bit of movie history, you know, when you're watching this musical.
I guess I see. I was really looking like I was taking this exercise as what movies could I get like my dude bro friends who don't like musicals. What could I get them to watch? And there's no chance in heck I could get them to watch Guys and Dolls. Like,
If
no
they're a
way.
historian, if they're a movie historian, they
Right,
might,
right,
because you
right,
hook them
right.
on Brando. You hook them on the
Yeah,
Brando
Vito
angle.
Corleone.
That's
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, Adelaide's Lemez is one of my all-time favorites.
yeah.
Is
Mm-hmm.
you know, psychosomatic symptoms, difficult to control. So good.
Yep.
So great. I mean, I love it. Well, all right. So my number five is, I guess you might call it sort of a rock musical. It's mostly one song, but sings it a lot. It's That Thing You Do. I
Mm.
think you'd have a fighting chance of getting the dude bros to watch That Thing You Do.
Yeah.
I do. I think it's like cute enough, and like I think it's about these guys in this band, you know, and a lot of guys like, you know, dream of having a band and starting a band and having a hit. And
Mm-hmm.
so you know, all the main characters are guys. And so like I think that gives it a little bit of help. And it's just pleasant, and the song the song is catchy.
Yeah.
And so yeah,
It's a
that's my
good
number
movie
five.
too. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like the choice because
Yeah.
it's a good movie. Even put it,
Yeah.
even musical aside.
they'll regret watching it because that earworm will be in their head for the rest of their life.
It's a good song.
It is a good song. It's a good song.
Was that nominated for Best Picture?
That thing no, I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Okay.
But I hope it was nominated for Best Song. I don't know if it was. It should have been. But yeah, I just think it's sort of catchy enough, and it's about a bunch of guys, and they're starting their band, and they're friends, and kind of a thing that they'd be willing to give it a begrudging watch.
I like it.
So, what about you, Ken? What's your number 5?
All right, so a little bit of how I tried to make my list was to try to figure out like entry points for certain people, like kind of like you were saying, like the Dude Bros and everything. So the first one I have is kind of for the Judd Apatow mid-2000 comedies type of person that likes those, and it's maybe a little bit of a cheat, but it's Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story.
Oh, I like it. I like
which is definitely not an outright musical, but the way I kind of think of it, it's a parody of music biopics, and it lampoons like Ray, Walk the Line, The Doors, Yellow Submarine, Great Balls of Fire, Don't Look Back, just all these like classic like music biopics. But also like the songs that are in it are like essential like plot points in the movie. So like you have like the and they're all original songs too that like ape the style of like doo-wop or like a little bit of Motown, Bob Dylan, like all these like Beach Boys and everything. And so you have like the first big song in the movie is titled "Take My Hand," which is a doo-wop song that gets treated like it's a the devil music kind of thing, and like he basically gets run out of town because of this song by like because the high school students are dancing provocatively to this, like it's so over the top. And you have like another song that's called "Let's Duet," which is a double entendre, and then another one that's called "Darling," which is a play on the name of his love interest Darlene. So yeah, it's Judd Apatow produced it. It for some reason did not make anywhere near as much money as like the 40-year-old version, Anchorman, like that's those groups of movies, but it's kind of really gained a cult following in the last like 15 years.
I've actually never seen it, but I've heard a lot about it. I know.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's
a blind
so funny.
spot. It's a blind spot. I need to.
The funniest thing, like, so the way they spoof Ray is, so Ray obviously, like Ray Charles, is blind, but Dewey Cox has no sense of smell, and yet still manages to make this incredible music career despite not being able to smell. So,
and was Walk Hard the first movie musical you watched? Did that get you onto more movie musicals? It might have with the timeline.
It might have been. Who knows? But no, Walk Hard.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Greg, what's your number 4?
So my number 4 is The Muppets Christmas Carol. For good. A couple, I know it's so good, and I'd recommend it for a non-movie musical because I've actually written about this for the blog. I actually think it's a definitive Christmas Carol movie. You could put Alistair Sims, any
Charles
version
Dickens
of it.
in the movie,
right? Charles Dickens is in the movie, and Michael Caine is a great Scrooge. I mean, he's up there with Sims as far as I'm concerned. He really is, because he treats the material dead serious, like he's going for a Best Actor nomination. So, like, again, the movie works on its own. And now, again, if you don't like Muppets, it's not going to make you a Muppets fan, probably. But if you like Christmas Carol, it might. Like, it's a good.
If you don't like Muppets, we're going to have words. Like, who doesn't like Muppets?
Something's wrong with you.
There are Scrooges out there in the world. There just are, but not these two guys. Not these two guys I'm talking
that's
about.
Right.
No. But it's such a great, heartwarming movie. The way the music is really top to bottom. Not only is it catchy, but it really matches the story really well. So it's very consistent with the Christmas Carol themes and the arc of it and all that. And it's just from almost every angle, it's a great Christmas movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great Christmas Carol movie, and a really good movie musical.
It's a good choice because I also think that people kind of accept songs and singing more at Christmas, just with carols and everything. So I think that is a good gateway film. So that's a good choice. My number 4 is Sweeney Todd, The Ballad of Fleet Street. I think that just the style of it, I think you could get in maybe some of the horror fans, some of the Burton fans, some of the people who like things that are a little bloody and a little bit different, a little bit unique. I also thought about Rocky Horror, like those two that I feel like you could kind of convince people that are looking for something a little more edgy and different, and the horror vibes. But yeah, I think, I mean, a lot of people will roll their eyes at the singing isn't the best in this, but I think the average dude bro isn't going to care about that, and they're just going to like the fact that it's bloody and it's the cinematography is cool, the production design's cool. It's just a cool looking movie with some good.
It's a catchy performances.
Plot. Yeah, too, catchy plot. So I think that would be a pretty good gateway movie.
Yeah. Welcome to the Pilot Podcast. My name is BJ.
And my name is Me Too, and we promise this promo is worth it, so please don't skip ahead.
We're two judgy friends who put our judgmental skills to work for you. We review the pilot episodes of new and popular shows, and shows that our listeners request to answer your question, should I watch this?
Look, a lot of us are spending a lot more time at home, and yes, we should be reading and trying new projects and enriching ourselves, but does anything beat binging a great show?
Let us take the guesswork out of deciding what your next show will be. Tune in to The Pilot Podcast at thepilotpodcast.com.
What about you, Ken?
All right, so my number 4, I'm kind of going in like reverse chronological order here. So I got Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
That was on my short list.
Yeah, so that's like a good one for like the cinephiles that are fans of the Coens or Roger Deakins. And I love the Coens, so getting this onto my list was kind of a no-brainer for me. It's not like it's kind of similar to Walk Hard in the sense that it's not like a full-on musical, but there's several sequences with singing choreography throughout the movie, and it's not just when they're singing like I Am a Man of Constant Sorrow, which was the big hit from that soundtrack. That was a huge soundtrack, by the way.
Yeah, I remember on repeat.
Gosh. Yeah, like that one. Constant. But I mean, you got like the baptism scene down in the water, the sirens washing their clothes in the stream. Even the clan kind of gets like made fun of with like their choreography in that scene. So there's probably a few other scenes I've even forgotten about. But it's the Coen Brothers. It's not. I mean, I don't consider it like my favorite Coen Brothers, but it's like upper middle tier, like right up there. So
it's up there for me. Stuff. Yeah, it's pretty high. So yeah, I think that's a good pick. All right, Greg, what's your number 3?
Okay, I've got the latest edition of Star is Born on here, even though there's some argument it's not a musical because there's not much choreography going on. Although I would argue this could very easily be a stage musical. For one big reason, meaning that the songs, even though most of the songs are sung like as a concert, not like as they're singing and dancing through the street, but it could be done that way on stage because the songs really very cleverly follow the arc of both of the main characters. Jackson Maine and I'm blanking on Lady Gaga's name in it. But I mean, I'm picturing choreography in my head as I was going through their soundtrack. So, and it's also a really good movie. It really works as a movie as well as a musical. The soundtrack is great for it, top to bottom. So it's a good, especially for non-musical fans who like the genre of music that genre represents. Either they like the pop music that Lady Gaga represents, or some of the country rock that Bradley Cooper singing during it. It's also that's a really good segue for them to be to try out a movie musical.
And they had great chemistry.
Yeah.
I mean, people thought they were a real couple at like the Oscars and stuff like that.
Did Lady Gaga want to be a real couple? Was that the story coming out of it? Yeah. No, they're very believable. It was the best. I think it was the best by far version of Star is Born.
I agree.
That we've seen.
I just watched the Judy Garland one for another project to do for the patrons, where I'm reviewing the AFI 100 Passions list for my patrons. And so I just watched A Star is Born 1951, I think it is. And it's good, but no chemistry at all.
Yeah.
And so that I do agree that this new one is the best.
The one with Barbra Streisand is interesting because I didn't really listen to her as a musician growing up. I knew who she was and I knew some songs she did. But I watched that for the first time probably 2 or 3 years ago. And I watched that, I'm like, oh, now I know why she was a big deal. She can really sing.
She's a good singer.
Her voice was incredible, in that movie. Yeah,
that's true.
I gotta say, I don't buy a lot of movie soundtracks, but Star is Born is one of the few that I actually bought after seeing it.
Yeah,
with Gaga,
like on CD,
and Cooper. No, MP3, but yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my number 3 is one that might be a little hard to sell just because it's very long, but it's Fiddler on the Roof. And the reason why I think of the classic musicals, I think you could get a dude bro to watch it. Its lead character is a dude. But also I think that most of the singing is fairly natural. I at least my grandfather was the kind of person who always had it was always sort of humming a little ditty under his breath. There was always just like a little song that he was singing. And that's kind of the way Tevye is. And so I think it feels natural. And also a lot of the songs are sort of based around prayers or celebrations or, when people do sing in those settings often. And so I think it feels less jarring than something like Guys and Dolls, where you have mafia people singing and dancing or down the street. It's like, okay, I can imagine these characters singing and dancing, and it's such a good story. And I think anybody that's kind of rebelled against their parents a little bit or just grown up can relate to both Tevye and to the girls. And so it's a very easy story to connect with and relate with.
Yeah.
And, so I think it's a pretty good gateway.
I saw that in 4th grade. Our teacher, it was like she showed it to her class every year, and but I have almost no memory of it.
No, really?
since then, so it'd be a good one to go back and rewatch.
Yeah, it's a good movie. I enjoy it. All right, Ken, what's yours?
All right, number 3, I've got 1999 movie animated feature called South Park: Bigger, Longer, and Uncut.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh,
blame Canada, blame Canada.
Exactly. Yes, Oscar nominated. Blame Canada, by the way.
So this is not for Canadians who don't
well,
like
I mean,
musicals.
No, Canadians would be fine with it because they're super nice. No, but this would be for like the fans of the raunchy, the subversive, the animated comedy that satire in there and everything. I saw this in the theater the summer it came out, and I laughed so hard. This was only like 2 or 3 seasons into the show too, so like nobody was really expecting a musical from Trey Parker and Matt Stone at that point, and so that was almost as shocking as the all the language in it, which is still like the most expletive laden movie I think they've ever made in the history of Hollywood.
Yeah, until they did Book of Mormon, which is not a
movie,
that was sort of like the lead up,
right? Yeah, right. So, but yeah, like you said, Book of Mormon. Like once that came out, like it wasn't that big of a surprise because they had made South Park Bigger, Longer, and Uncut by that point. Right. So, but yeah, like Blame Canada got the Oscar nomination for Best Original Song that year. But like, they had Satan singing Up There, which like evokes a whole new part of your world from The Little Mermaid, and a couple other songs that they had in there were were kind of aping the style of a couple other famous Disney songs and everything. So South Park, bigger, longer, and uncut.
Okay.
All right.
All right, Greg.
We got we have a lot of different movies. On
Yeah, we
list.
really do.
This is really interesting.
Greg, what's your number 2?
And I'm going with a very different movie than anything we said before. We're going to follow South Park musical with. I'm going with 1776, the movie musical, for number 2. I think this is one of the best. I can't call it one of the best movie musicals, although it's in my personal top 5. But I think it's one of the best dramatizations of a movie musical that we've had. Obviously, this is famous for. It's one of the longest breaks between songs ever. It's 30 minutes between the Louisville, Virginia, and But Mr. Adams, in the first part of the movie. But what I like about this for non-musical fans is they have to have a little bit of an interest in history and Revolutionary War period and all that. But if they do, this movie works totally as a depiction. Obviously fictional. There's some fictionalized elements in it. It's not a documentary, but it's as a depiction of the struggles to declare independence against Britain. I mean, the drama still works. I watch this every July. And it still works. It still hangs. I don't think there's some a little bit dated elements to it, but the drama, the tension still lives on every year. Yeah. And it's frankly, still really relevant. Just kind of what we're going through right now.
If people watching, if they love Hamilton, they should definitely check out 1776. I mean, it doesn't have 100%. The hip hop, but it's certainly similar themes, of course. And and if you ever wanted to see Mr. Feeney sing and dance, this is your chance. I mean, it was on my list too. I really enjoy it.
Yeah, like Molasses to Rum on stage, but especially in the movie, is one of the hardest hit songs of any musical that I can think of. Like it hits the audience with especially the way they did in the movie. It's really just good. There's nothing like it. There really isn't.
Greg, I don't think your pick is that different from mine. You've got the Revolutionary War, and I had the imaginary fake war with Canada. So
we'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
Well, my pick does not have a war.
It's a
creative war.
The creative
war. Mine is Tick Tick Boom is my second pick. And I think that this, I loved the movie so much because it spoke to me as a creator, as somebody who's trying to make content for people that people will like, and how frustrating it can be and how hard it can be to have that lightning in a bottle. And all we see is, Jonathan Larson striking big with Rent, and you don't see the 10 years before that. And then of course it all adds impact knowing that he died the day before. It was all his dreams were all coming, that's coming, and so it adds this intensity to the whole story in Tick Tick Boom. And so I just it really spoke to me as a human and as a creator. And you've got a lead guy, you've got Andrew Garfield being as charming as can be, so charismatic, so good, and great songs. And I don't know, I just feel like you'd have a fighting chance of the Dude Bros enjoying it. It's got Spider-Man in it. Come on.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Johnny can't decide.
They might be able to connect with Jonathan's story, and if they've ever tried to make something or do something.
It's a catchy one. It's definitely a musical for the modern age. I think the way that it was set up and filmed and how the music was written and stuff.
I just loved it. It's probably, it might be my favorite movie of the last 5 years. It just really spoke to me on a personal level. So
yeah, I was just gonna say Johnny Can't Decide is up there for me. I absolutely that's by far my favorite. And the therapy song's good too. But there's some really great songs from that soundtrack.
Yeah. So, all right, what do you have at 2, Ken?
Number 2. So when I was making this list, I was going through and looking at a bunch of different movies, and I realized I hadn't seen Little Shop of Horrors since I was a little kid, and it was on HBO. And so I decided to go back and watch it last night, and I'm really glad I did. This was in your honorable mentions, Rachel. And yeah, it's my number 2. I never saw. I'm sure I never saw it from beginning to end as a kid. I probably just caught like chunks of it, like here and there. But it's definitely like the most overtly musical choice on my list. And I have very little memory of it from my childhood outside of Audrey 2 saying "Feed Me," which just kind of like sticks with you. But I was blown away by. Well, I mean, the songs are great, but also I was blown away by the like how they had Audrey 2 function, like just the animatronics or practical effects with that were really impressive. So this is kind of for the fans of 80s comedies, I guess that would be the entry point. Rick Moranis, Steve Martin is in it, and he's great.
I think you could get comedy people, and I think you could get horror people.
Yeah,
horror people in.
Yeah, definitely. And then maybe people that like because it's originally adapted from a Roger Corman movie from like the 1960s. So if you the people that are fans of B movies, maybe they want to see how it's adapted. So there you go.
Yeah, and people that are fan of the Disney Renaissance, which is like all people. You got Alan Menken and Howard Ashman's first collaboration. So
it also has, like you mentioned, like I didn't put Rocky Horror Picture Show on my list, but it does kind of have that kind of like similar DNA where it's like they're making a musical out of this.
Yeah,
like that's it's kind of off kilter and a little unique,
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, Greg, what is your number 1?
So my number 1, I went with Dreamgirls, and here's why. So the hook of Dreamgirls, if we're talking about the bros, it's not going to hook it by itself. But I think if you go through the cast, meaning Beyonce, obviously one of the biggest singers we've had today, Jennifer Hudson, who I want to get back to in a second, but also Jamie Foxx and Eddie Murphy. They both have a lot of fans. All 4 of them are terrific in this movie, both singing and acting. Really acting, I would say, for Eddie Murphy and Jennifer Hudson. Although all 4 of them are really good. And while it's a kind of simple story, I think the media. I'm a big fan of the musical, but I think also the way the movie did the songs, where it's like there's some really key songs that really work effectively to further the character's arc. Like I'm thinking of a couple. Obviously, the famous one, Jennifer Hudson.
I'm telling you, I'm not going.
Yeah, I'm telling you that one. Eddie Murphy's. Sorry. Which one? I Meant You No Harm, Jimmy Got Soul. Like these aren't just songs performed on the stage. Like they really meant something, and now they're really impactful as far as the character goes, and the art, and then the whole story goes. So it's like every song really hits hard pretty well in good ways, and also pretty devastating ways. So it's really good singing performances, it's really good acting performances, and if you can get them through saying you're going to see the one time where someone outsings and outacts Beyonce Knowles. Like, and you bring that as a hook. Because look, it's true. Jennifer Hudson does. she outsings her and she outacts her. And I can't wait to argue that with people 30 years from now when Beyonce and goes down is what people are gonna say she is one of the greatest singers of our time. I'm gonna say you know what, young whippersnapper, there was someone better, and her name
Yeah.
was Jennifer Hudson. I'm going to point them to this movie.
Well,
get off my lawn.
I
It's A, B,
mean,
and C.
Jennifer
That's
Hudson
right.
has an EGOT, so she's
Yeah.
proven
Yes, she
her
does.
case.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But she's going to get lost. I'm telling you, she's going to get
Yeah.
lost in history. And it's a shame. I mean, Beyonce deserves it. She's obviously a wonderful singer. And
Greg loves to be a contrarian, and honestly, like I think this is not that controversial of a contrarian take.
No,
So,
I mean, I do feel like I would never. It seems like
I mean, on the merits. I mean,
well,
on
no,
the
it
merits.
seems like too much of a female centric story to get the dude bros to watch. Like, but I would like them to. I hope they will.
But
why not?
there are women out there who aren't into musicals, so
Sure,
this could appeal to that.
That's true.
Well.
That's true. That's true. It's just why it wouldn't have occurred to me. But
Right.
but yeah, it's a good pick. I've never seen the stage. I've only ever seen the movie, so I'd like to. It's on my bucket list to see one of these days.
Yeah.
But my number one is you mentioned Ken. You'd mentioned John Carney films, and I'm a huge fan of his. And my number one is Sing Street. It's one of my all-time favorite movies. I absolutely love it. And again, it's got those the boys forming a band. You know, he likes this girl. He wants to impress the girl. He asks the girl to be in his music video for his band. He doesn't have a band, and so he starts a band. And the songs are so catchy. They're so fun. It's so endearing. The relationship between the two brothers is just so emotionally true and authentic. And I absolutely love it. I don't know. To me, it's basically a perfect film. There's really nothing I would change about it. I think it is just so entertaining. It's got such great songs. It's such good characters, good writing. I just love it. It's one of my all-time faves.
Drive it like you stole it.
Yes.
I got to rewatch that movie. I haven't seen it in a couple of years, but yeah, I'm right there with you. It's really great.
It's on Netflix. If anybody hasn't seen it, watch it. So,
nice.
All right.
I haven't seen it, so I will watch.
Oh,
I will go watch it.
That's good. I got a lot on both of your lists that I haven't seen, so this is giving me some a lot to add to my watch list. So
you're gonna fall in love with movie musicals after you've watched all these movies, Ken. Can't wait.
It'd be fun to follow up, and once we've all seen everybody's picks. But Ken, what is your number one?
So my number one, we're going back to 1939. This is for anyone that is interested in checking out classic movies and maybe getting into more classic musicals. The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, that's a good pick.
But I used to really dislike this movie. My sister got it for her 5th birthday and watched it like every day for like a year straight.
Yeah.
So it really wore on me. But you know, having some distance from that now, like there's no denying the greatness and the masterpiece of it. It's a timeless story. You know, the change from black and white to Technicolor is just, I mean, in terms of movie history, there's that. Judy Garland's talents on full display. The Scarecrow, the Tin Man, the Cowardly Lion, like they all get songs that like introduce their, showcase their stories and everything. I feel like, I don't know, for me, like that was a movie that was like a staple for like everybody's childhood. I would hope that's still the case for now, but I mean, I don't know if that's true for it's like not. The streaming age or not, but I mean,
my
really
daughter
daughter
made it about 30 minutes in.
Really? Oh, that's awful. Well, maybe she'll get into it later on.
Plus, I have to say, quick tangent that's related. I took my daughter to see Wizard of Oz at Kids Cabaret. So, it's theater for kids. They did none of the original songs. All they did was 80s jukebox songs, and they slightly twisted the lyrics to fit Wizard of Oz. For example, they did "Eye of the Tiger," but instead "Eye of the Lion" for the Cowardly Lion song. I'm like, come on, people! Right, lame, so lame. Update the songs if you want. Fine, make it more.
Did they tell you that's what they were doing? Did you know going into it that it was, or did you think you were seeing a straight adaptation of Wizard of Oz?
I thought so, but apparently this is what they do for production. So apparently I should have known.
Oh.
when I was complaining.
But yeah, no, I mean, Wizard of Oz, it's just special. When she sings Somewhere Over the Rainbow, and especially I think knowing Judy's life and what happened with her, and it just adds like another layer for me of getting over that rainbow in her life, and her relationship with each person she meets along the way. And it's a beautiful film.
Yeah.
I think Judy's whole performance throughout that whole film is a little bit underappreciated, just as far as like her acting. I know it's a classic film, but when she sees Aunt Em in the globe, and she calls out to him, and she calls out to her, and Annie Em, and then you see the Wicked Witch. It's so good. It's chilling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still a great villain. Still a great villain's performance.
Oh.
Yeah.
One of the best ever.
Yeah. Still holds up really well.
Back when they actually had villains in kids' movies. Now they're like mean grandmas. We never have villains anymore.
Right. Or they're really good, or they turn out to be good.
Or they're like
they're misunderstood
for 90% of the movie, and then like, surprise, I'm bad.
Right. I know.
But anyway, well, very good. Let's go over our picks. So I had That Thing You Do at 5, Sweeney Todd at 4, Fiddler on the Roof at 3, Tick Tick Boom at 2, and Sing Street at 1. What about you, Greg?
So I had Guys and Dolls 5, Muppet Christmas Carol 4, Stars Born, the latest version 3, 1776 2, and Dreamgirls number 1.
Great. And Kenton, your list?
And I had Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox Story, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, South Park, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut, Little Shop of Horrors, and The Wizard of Oz.
Great. So if you're listening, let us know your picks, what you would introduce, what you would pick to introduce your dude bro friends to musicals and get them on board. We would love to hear in the comment section or on Twitter. And for both of you, how can people follow you, read your content? What about you, Greg?
Yeah, so you can follow both of us at OnScreen blog on Twitter and Facebook. So I do most of the tweeting on there, but we tweet out all the articles and editorials and movie reviews that both of us write through both the Twitter and the Facebook account.
Oh, very good.
And on Onstage blog / OnScreen blog.
Great. And I'll have that in the description. People can follow. And I don't know if either of you have your own personal socials you want to share. Or...
Yeah, I'm Ken Jones 81 on most platforms, or Moose KGJ. But pretty much, just that.
Okay, great.
Yeah, but most of my tweetings on movies through OnScreen blog, so just follow.
Okay, good. Great. You can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes, so check that out. Also, make sure that you're following me at rachelsreviewstheater.com for my theater reviews, and check out the Hallmarkies podcast. Got lots of fun stuff going on over there. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. That really helps us a lot. And if you are watching on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. That helps a lot too. And check out the Patreon and merch store. We really appreciate that. And it was so great to meet both of you. Look forward to having you on again. And we'll talk to y'all later. Bye.
Thanks, Rachel. Thanks for having us on.
Thank you.